harass the gold mine. You know, he'd like to try and focus that down. I'm not even going to talk about that because there have been so many damn audio commentaries on the subject. What I would like to talk about is this particular map, Tenera Stand. It's one of the new ones that was added with, like, I think patch 1.20. So, you know, some of you might not have a whole lot of experience playing on it. From the outset, like, when I first saw this map, I was like, that is so, you know, balanced in favor of undead. Because it is very small. As I mentioned, well, it's not very small. It's a relatively compact map. As I mentioned, undead really aren't very good at expanding. You're better off when you can contain. As a result, maps that are easy to expand on and kind of have a lot of, or kind of have a lot of walking distance in between expansions, those maps end up kind of favoring the other races because it just ends up being very hard for undead to contain their expanding. So anyway, this map looks like it's good for undead, just for the sake that there's not nearly as many expansion points that you have to scout and protect against as you would on, say, Twisted Meadows or Knollwood. However, the expansions are actually, like, walking distance-wise fairly close to each other, and Short is doing an excellent job of exploiting this fact. There's also another, this is really kind of, I mean, this is a downright quirk. If you look in this upper left-hand corner here, Shortround's basically managed to trap a whole handful of gargoyles in the corner of the map here, between the Dryads in his base and the panda that's waiting for them just a little bit north of there. The edges of this map are, you know, there's not a whole lot of, like, trees around or water around the edge or anything like that. So when fighting from the edge of the map, the gargs actually don't have anywhere to run to, and it's possible for a Night Elf player to kind of sandwich them in like this. And that's exactly the situation you don't want to be in with gargs. You want to be able to play very, very carefully with them and not fly them over enemy units. Again, Night Elf don't really have a good hard counter to the gargoyle strategy. That's essentially what makes it a cookie-cutter strategy. And, but it ends up being like little soft counters, hero choices like the panda, and just tricks like this that allow Night Elves to win against it. Eventually, Madfrog decides, you know, okay, I've got to try and just run my gargoyles out of here because I'm not escaping with them. He ends up losing, like, I mean, I think he started out with like 11 or 12, and he's got about 7 left. That one little bit of entrapment really sucked for him. Here's what I'm talking about, though, about the expansions being close to each other walking distance-wise. Short was just, you know, fighting the gargoyles off and kind of keeping him pinned in inside his main, and while that was going on, Madfrog decided to try and harass Short's other gold mine, and it only took about, you know, 5 or 10 seconds for a substantial bit of Short's army to walk over and chase him off of it. Another thing, and Short is he's going to bleed for this a little bit, but another thing that he manages to do is he kind of spreads his base out between his natural expansion and his main. This allows him to kind of have moonwells wherever they're handy. One thing gargoyles do not want to do is try and fight against any of the Night Elf units when there's a moonwell around. Normally they can focus down a few Dryads and kind of sneak out of there without really taking much loss. But if that Dryad is getting healed by a moonwell, nothing's going to die on the Night Elf side, and the gargoyles are going to start dropping. Anyhow, regardless of all that, Madfrog got his expansion up. So he actually has, you know, despite not really being able to harass Shortround too effectively, he's got a pretty decent game at this point. What I don't think is a very good idea, and I think this is what ultimately causes Madfrog to lose this game, is he went for 3 crits. about like a few months ago, mass gargs was a pretty dominant strategy against night elves. And it's a good strategy. It's a very solid strategy, and it's there's, like I said, there's really no hard counter to it. But as a whole, we undead players have done a really, really good job of training our night elf enemies on how to beat mass gargs, because it's pretty much what everybody uses. Consequently, most good night elf players out there have, they've just learned a lot of tricks. They've learned that using a Beastmaster with Quill Beast helps. They've learned that getting a Panda helps immensely. They've learned that Dryads, even though they get focused down pretty easily by gargoyles, are also very useful for their slow poison and for the fact that they don't get owned by ghouls quite as badly as archers do. It's kind of time to, switch to a new strategy. One of the people that we see winning a whole lot these days is Memoria. He's the one that's he mostly goes abominations. Sometimes he'll add in like some meat wagons and stuff like that, or destroyers, depending on if he's facing a lot of dryads. He adds meat wagons. If he's facing bears, he gets some destroyers. And it's been working really well for the guy. Most of the replays I see of him versus Night Elf, he ends up winning. Basically, what I'm getting at here is that the mass garg strategy has gotten a little bit stale. People are just too good at countering it. Nevertheless, like I said, it's still a good strategy, and the gargs are doing pretty well. He managed to kill the entangled gold mine of Short's expansion, although that is kind of now rebuilding. And he just managed to take out a couple of moon wells that he was trying to build. Like I said, he's building those moon wells. Take the Fog of War off, because I'm going to talk a little bit, like I said, about what Short is doing. He's building his moon wells kind of halfway in between his main and his expansion. This allows him to fight pretty much at either one or anywhere in between the two, and the gargs end up being at a pretty serious disadvantage anytime you've got a moon well healing the unit that they're trying to focus down. Okay, so he's built himself 80 supply worth of gargoyles. I'm telling you that's not the best thing to do. What would be a better strategy? Well, what Memoria does, he goes straight up to abominations and destroyers. He actually doesn't build any gargoyles at all. However, something that I've found that works pretty well in conjunction with the gargoyle strategy is when you're fighting against somebody who's expanding and building a lot of dryads, is to add a couple of meat wagons in. And, once you get his attention with the gargoyles, maybe get a town portal in there, then you send your meat wagons in and have them start hitting an expansion or something. Not so much when they only have, like, one main base and one expansion, but especially a little bit later on when they try to get their third mine. The meat wagons end up being immensely helpful, because if you send, like, just 2 or 3 of them, that's something that is going to force him to do something to defend that expansion. He's going to have to either town portal in or staff a hero in or something. He's going to have to find some way to do that. So that's one point where you can make him focus his attention, and while he's trying to deal with that, you can hit something else with the gargoyles. You can do vice versa. Anyway, Madfrog has got plenty of money at this point. He would have no problem just popping out a couple of slaughterhouses, and he'd be ready to start doing that. What he's going to do instead, and it's fairly sensible, because he's already got the crypts out. A little later on, he's going to start trying to build some crypt fiends. It's not a bad idea. But it doesn't really add to his capacity to take down buildings, which is kind of a problem he's going to have. And it also, they're a little bit meatier than gargs, but not quite enough. He's going to have problems later on because his army's just too flimsy, and when he tries to get in a big battle with them, they're going to wear out. If you had a bombs around to soak some more damage, he might last a little bit longer. If you had meat wagons chucking fire in, those things kill dryads very quickly. Destroyers would be a nice addition, just for the sake of being able to take down bears a little bit better. But Madfrog does get him some frostworms, and those really, they work about as well as bears, against bears, and they also work better on heroes because of the slow. Alright, not a whole lot interesting happens here. Like I said, you're gonna see, if you leave the fog of war off, you can see how Short sets up his next expansion because his main gold mine has ran out. Here's the deal. With scrolls of healing, and with some decent micro tricks and some good hit and run, 50 supply worth of gargoyles